Hi guys, this is Mariah Young with Co-op number 7. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about summer. I don't know about you guys, but I sure get tired of the summertime I'm bored blues or I'm hungry. And of course we know that they say that a ton because they're bored. There are a couple of things that I've learned over the last few summers with my kids to be able to kind of offset those a little bit. I'm not saying that we don't get those, but we get them a lot less. And we've just found some ways that really help that. So I wanted to share that with you. One of the things that I love to do with my kids is to create kind of a summer camp. So in this video, I would like to talk with you about several different facets of how we do that, including schedule, meal planning, planning events, and just putting it all on the calendar so that we make sure to actually do some of the things that we want to do throughout the summer. The first thing that we do is we do still keep a schedule. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's summer, I don't want to keep a schedule, which I totally get. And we try not to have too rigorous of a schedule, and we certainly do not feel like we have to stick to the schedule. If we need to, we'll change it, no big deal. I like to let my kids feel like they're getting a little bit of sleeping in, but I also like to make sure that we don't waste our entire day away with sleeping. And that also for them tends to lead into the I'm boards. So, and it throws our schedule off just way too much. My husband comes home and we've only been up for a little bit when it's already 5 o'clock. Not a good thing, because then we're going to bed so much later. He's going to bed earlier, but then he wants to spend time with us, and it just, you know, in order to do that, he's got to stay up later. So it just screws his time up too. So not really fair to him. I don't like to do that to him. So I try and keep a schedule. So I try to pick a time in the morning that's not too early, but then not so late that if we wanted to go do something for a day that we could actually get out and be out at a decent time. So this year for us, our sleep-in is either going to be 9 or 10. We haven't decided as a family yet, but it's going to be one of those two times, maybe even in between. So, but pick one. Pick a time and, you know, discuss it with your family. Make it a family decision, not just your decision. That way your kids can at least feel, even if it's not the time that they wanted, at least they had some say in it. But yeah, just make sure that you leave some time to do stuff throughout the day. The other thing that you need to decide in your schedule is when will you get out. We try to plan outings or crafts or going and seeing friends, going to a park or whatever. And last year it worked out better for us to do it in the morning and get most of that done by lunch and be in kind of at the hottest part of the day. But with my kids being a little bit older, it's not too realistic. They were begging more in the afternoons to get out and do more stuff, go swimming. So I think we're actually going to switch that this year, and we're actually going to get out after lunch. If you have littler kids, before lunch is really great because they're usually up earlier anyway, so you can get breakfast out of the way, and then you can, you know, be back for lunch and nap times, which works out really awesome. For my older kids now, I'm thinking that the mornings, we're going to wake up somewhat decently later, and then we're going to have a little bit of individual study time. It'll be a long amount of time, probably like an hour, and that can be reading or whatever. And then, you know, getting chores done, and then we can just go out and enjoy our day. So we're probably going to fix that to be after lunch this year. And then we can just stay out. So for swimming, you know, they can just be swimming most of the day. But we'll go after lunch so that we're not starving, and I can just take a few snacks. Okay, so obviously this says April on it, but I like this kind of a big calendar because it goes all the way through July. And I'm pretty sure if you go to Learning Palace, you can find one that goes, that starts in August and goes all the way through July as well. So you can really have your summer covered. But I highly recommend one of these because you can, of course, write all of your events and stuff throughout the year. But in the summer, this can be really helpful too. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and go onto your Outlook or whatever. And sometimes what I'll do is just print out an entire month. So if you get your calendar out, you can go ahead and you can put in a lot of the different events that you want to do. We would probably go ahead and start out with putting our swimming days in there. If we had any days, last year we went and we walked every morning with my husband's mom and his nephew, and so we'd go with her on a walk with the dog, and it was kind of early, but it got us up and going. And so that was really kind of a nice way to start the day. But we'd go ahead and write that in, and that kind of stuff. And the reason that I do this is I like the summer camp atmosphere. So you have a wake up time, you eat breakfast, you go do whatever you're going to do. For us next year, it'll go right into chore time and individual study time. And then we might have a family learning time, and that can either be during the day. We'll probably do it during the evening, though, because some of that stuff we want to do with Dad as well. But then that goes right into lunch, and then it's get out and craft. And that's what you do the rest of the day. So then you just get to hang out, but stuff is still getting done around the house. That could be a good time, in the morning for Mom to put out whatever, put something in the crock pot, or if you're going to barbecue, put something, to defrost in the fridge, that kind of stuff. And then you're not feeling like you have a chaotic summer.